Welcome to Challenge 3. Today we're going to take a look at how we can carefully plan for inquiry. How we can take our passion, our why, and the inquiry thinking strategies and put them into a more structured platform to guide your planning. I think about planning from a structure called Inquiry A to Z. So when I think about inquiry, what do I need from point A to point Z to get me there? So I utilize 7 questions to guide my process, and they'll be typed below, so don't worry. So the first question is, how will students create goals based on success criteria? That right now we've already addressed in our Challenge 1. This is so important because students need to make those goals, as we talked about. So now let's move on to question number 2, which is, how is the classroom arranged to invite inquiry? How your classroom is arranged largely will promote or stop inquiry from happening. If you have rows, even if you have students seated together in clusters of 4 to 6, but how are your materials arranged in the room? How is the design? Is it kid-centered or is it teacher-centered? Is it prepaid, Lakeshore purchased items, or is it designed solely from students? These are all careful considerations when thinking about your classroom design. And do you incorporate your students into that process? Are they allowed to give their suggestions of how that space is designed to best meet their learning needs? Because this is all about student-driven inquiry is. And so we want to utilize our students as much as we can in this process. So the third question is, how are our materials used? So what materials are you using, first of all? And do you have a broad range of materials? Is it only for reading and math and writing? Or is it, there are also materials there for just basic inquiry investigation? Flushed out materials for science and social studies investigations. Oftentimes these are not as accessible, and so what do we need to do in order to make sure that there's more of an equal distribution? So the fourth question, what types of questions are being posed in your classroom or in your school? Is there a variety of questions being posed? Because this right here can either promote inquiry thinking within our students or actually stop it. Because if we're only asking low-level, factual, comprehension-based questions and we don't ask deeper questions, then it's going to be a problem because our students will not be able to go beyond in their independent thinking. So question number 5, what strategies are being modeled to inspire independent thinking? Are we giving students a variety of strategies that they can use and replicate when they're doing their own independent inquiries? Are we utilizing Harvard Project Zero visible thinking routines as an example? How are we utilizing the work of John Hattie? Any of these experts that have done tried and true measures of getting students to take more ownership and be able to catalog their learning experience and be able to talk to it. How are we utilizing them in our daily practice? Question 6, how are student inquiries celebrated? If students are going through the process of initiating research and inquiry on their own, should that not be celebrated in the school? Whether it be your parents that show up for a gallery walk or the school community being invited to participate, a lower level class coming to participate. But somehow your student initiated inquiries need to be celebrated, or else what's the point of your students doing them? That's what they're thinking, besides getting a grade, right? And we want learning to go so far beyond that. And then the 7th question is, how are students self and peer assessing the process? What are we doing in order to get them to go through that process? So, luckily for you, 4 out of the 7 questions are being addressed during our challenge. The 3 that are not being addressed directly in the challenge is how we are designing our learning space, the materials that we're using, and celebrating student inquiries. So guess what? That is going to be our focus for our live session. So make sure you have paper and pencil ready, because I'm sure tons of people are going to be sharing ways that they do this to invite inquiry into the learning situation. Now, what we're going to do for our task today, you're going to say, Lou, where was our task? Of course, our task is this. I want you to look at the 7 different questions that I've posed. And I want you to go back to your first unit, whether it's a district creative unit or a unit of inquiry. I want you to look at your unit and assess, where do I see answers to all of this? Do I see this evident in my unit planner, and where can I put it? So once again, possible suggestions, okay? So once again, we're gonna post below the materials you need. Reminder that you have the planning guide. This is more fleshed out in this. Also our podcast, Confessions of a PYP Teacher. There's a whole podcast on it. And of course, there will be a post for burning questions. Good luck. I know you can do it. All right. Enjoy.